The unyielding resistance. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the starship's engine core. Admiral Klaxar stood at the helm, his 6 fingers drumming rhythmically against the metallic surface of the control panel. The air carried the faint tang of recycled oxygen, laced with the tension that permeated every corner of the Clithran flagship. Before him, a holographic projection displayed a glowing blue sphere, Earth. The pale light of the projection reflected off Klaxar's dark, scaled skin, emphasizing the sharp angles of his face and the cold determination in his eyes. The human resistance has persisted longer than anticipated. Klaxar growled, his voice deep and resonant, echoing through the command deck. These primitives should have crumbled weeks ago. Explain this failure. Beside him, strategist Reinar's mandibles clicked nervously. Admiral, their tactics are unorthodox. They adapt unpredictably, exploiting weaknesses we didn't foresee. Our simulations cannot keep up with their ingenuity. Klaxar's eyes narrowed as his gaze fixed on the holographic Earth. The Clithran Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, each one falling like dominoes before their superior firepower and strategy. Civilizations more advanced and powerful than humanity had been crushed under the weight of the Clithran armada. Yet these humans, fragile, short-lived, technologically inferior, were proving to be an anomaly. They had turned their own planet into a fortress, using guerrilla tactics, hacking into Clithran systems, and repurposing scavenged technology to devastating effect. Unacceptable, Klaxar hissed. His voice sent a chill through the bridge, silencing the low murmur of the crew. Prepare the Omega Protocol. We will extinguish them in one decisive strike. Reinar hesitated, his posture stiffening as if the weight of the Admiral's words physically pressed down on him. Admiral, the Omega Protocol will render Earth uninhabitable. The planet's resources will be ashes. Klaxar interrupted, sharply. His tone carried the finality of an executioner's blade. We are not here to preserve. We are here to dominate. If we cannot rule them, we will erase them. Initiate the countdown. There was a moment of silence as the crew exchanged uneasy glances. None dared to voice the growing dread that lingered unspoken in the room. The Clithran Empire prided itself on calculated efficiency, yet this mission had spiraled into chaos. Earth, a mere backwater planet, was becoming their greatest humiliation. Reinar swallowed hard, his mandibles clicking in resignation. Yes, Admiral. Countdown to Omega Protocol initiated. The holographic projection shifted, displaying a countdown timer, 72 hours until planetary annihilation. Klaxar stared at it with a cold satisfaction, his mind already envisioning the EI destruction. But deep within, a sliver of doubt gnawed at him. What if they had underestimated humanity? Again? Admiral? A communications officer called out, breaking the tense silence. Incoming transmission. It's from the humans. Klaxar's eyes widened slightly in surprise. On screen, the hologram flickered, and the image of a human woman appeared. Her face was battered but defiant, her eyes burning with an intensity that made even Klaxar pause. This is General Elena Ramirez of Earth's Resistance, she declared, her voice steady despite the clear exhaustion in her features. You think you've cornered us, but you don't understand what it means to be human. We will fight you in the skies, in the cities, and in the shadows. We don't give up. We don't surrender. You've underestimated us for the last time. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. Klaxar's lips curled into a sneer. Futile bravado, he muttered. Yet, as he turned back to the holographic Earth, he couldn't shake the unease creeping into his thoughts. What if she was right? Admiral, Reinar ventured cautiously. Perhaps we should reconsider. Enough, Klaxar snapped. Humans are pests, and pests are eradicated. Increase the fleet's bombardment. I want their defenses shattered before the protocol is complete. Yes, Admiral, Reinar replied, though his tone betrayed his doubt. As he moved to carry out the order, A single thought lingered in his mind, unspoken but persistent. What if they were making a grave mistake? The Clitheran fleet surged into formation, their weapons aimed at Earth. And deep below the surface of the blue planet, humanity prepared for their last stand. Humanity's last stand beneath the fractured skies of Earth. Humanity rallied for what would be their final stand. The Clitheran fleet's relentless bombardment had reduced cities to rubble, and the planet's surface was a scarred, smoking wasteland. Yet amidst the chaos, Resistance command centers buzzed with determination. In an underground bunker buried deep beneath what was once Washington, D.C., General Elena Ramirez stood at the center of a makeshift command room. The air was thick, with tension, a cacophony of voices and the hum of overtaxed machinery. Maps and tactical projections glowed on every wall, displaying the grim state of the war. Red markers showed Clitheran advancements, creeping closer to humanity's few remaining strongholds. "Status report," Ramirez barked, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. A young technician glanced up from his console, his face pale. "General, the Clitheran forces have breached the outer perimeter in the European theater. Their drones are overwhelming our defenses." Elena clenched her fists, her mind racing. "And Project Phoenix?" "The team is ready," replied a grizzled colonel beside her. "But there's a problem. The Clitherans have deployed a new kind of blockade around their flagship. Getting the infiltration team through will be nearly impossible. Nearly isn't good." "Enough!" Elena snapped. Her eyes burned with a mix of exhaustion and unyielding resolve. "We don't have time for doubts. If we don't stop them now, there won't be anything left to save." The room fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone present. Humanity had no more options, no more backup plans. This was their last hope, a desperate gambit to strike at the heart of the Clitheran fleet. Elena turned to a monitor displaying a live feed from the Phoenix team's staging area. The group of operatives, clad in scavenged Clitheran armor and armed with experimental human technology, stood ready. Each of them knew the odds, yet their faces were set with grim determination. "Phoenix team," Elena began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "You're not just fighting for Earth. You're fighting for every life that calls this planet home. The Clitherans think they've won, but they've underestimated what it means to be human. Show them their mistake." The team's leader, Marcus Hayes, saluted sharply. "We won't let you down, General." The transmission ended, and Elena exhaled, slowly. Her gaze shifted to the tactical display, where the countdown to the Omega Protocol ticked down mercilessly. Humanity's survival rested on a knife's edge, and every second counted. Above ground, the Clitheran fleet intensified its assault, their weapons carving through Earth's remaining defenses. But deep within the heart of the resistance, a spark of hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity was down, but they were far from out. The infiltration team, codenamed Phoenix, launched into orbit aboard a repurposed Clitheran shuttle. Every moment of the journey was fraught with tension. The shuttle's cloaking system flickered, barely concealing them from the enemy fleet. On board, Marcus clutched a data drive containing the virus, his fingers trembling. "Focus!" barked Lieutenant Kara Flynn, the team's tactical officer. Her sharp gaze scanned the shuttle's instruments. "We've only got one shot at this. If we're detected, it's over." The shuttle shuddered as it passed through the Clitheran blockade. Alarms wailed, and the crew froze as a patrol ship veered. Dangerously close. For a moment it seemed as though their luck had run out. But the cloaking held, and the patrol ship drifted past without incident. "We're in," Marcus whispered, relief evident in his voice. The team landed in a maintenance bay aboard the Clitheran flagship, their boots echoing faintly against the metallic floor. The ship was eerily silent, its corridors bathed in a cold, greenish light. They moved swiftly, guided by schematics stolen during a previous resistance raid. As they approached the core, a low, mechanical hum grew louder. Kara signaled for the eye. "Team to halt. Movement ahead," she whispered. Clitheran drones hovered nearby, their sensors scanning the corridor. Marcus activated a small EMP device. The showdown, the EMP pulse surged through the corridor, sending the Clithran drones crashing to the ground with a sharp crackle. Marcus and the team moved swiftly, their hearts pounding as they pressed onward toward the flagship's core. The air was thick with tension. Every corner they turned could lead to their doom. "Core access is just ahead," Kara whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. "Stay sharp. This is where things get dangerous." As the team reached the core chamber, they froze. Before them stood a towering Clithran war commander, encased in gleaming armor that pulsed with energy. Its 6 limbs bristled with weaponry, and its eyes glowed with an eerie intelligence. "You humans truly are persistent," the commander hissed, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "But your defiance ends here." The team fanned out, their weapons trained on the imposing figure. Marcus stepped forward, holding the data drive aloft. "We're not here to surrender. We're here to end this." The commander let out a guttural laugh, a sound that echoed with disdain. "You think you can outwit the Clithran Empire? Foolish creatures. You don't understand the power you're up against." Without warning, the commander unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, forcing the team to scatter. The chamber erupted into chaos as gunfire and explosions filled the air. Kara's sharp commands cut through the noise, directing the team's counterattack. "Marcus, get to the core," she shouted. "We'll hold it off." With a nod, Marcus sprinted toward the central console. The core pulsed with a blinding light, its energy rippling through the room. Sweat dripped down his face as he connected the data drive, his fingers flying across the controls to upload the virus. Behind him, the team fought valiantly, their makeshift weapons barely holding the commander at bay. One by one, they fell, their sacrifices buying Marcus the precious seconds he needed. The upload reached 99%. The commander, realizing the danger, turned its attention to Marcus. With a roar, it charged, its massive form barreling toward him. At the last moment, Marcus dove aside, narrowly avoiding the strike. The virus finished uploading, and the core began to shimmer and destabilize. "You've made a grave mistake," the commander growled, its voice laced with fury. "If I fall, so does your planet." Marcus stared at the towering figure, his resolve unshaken. "Better to fight and lose than to live as your slaves." The core erupted in a blinding flash of light, enveloping the chamber. The ultimate price. The explosion rippled through the flagship, tearing through its structure like a tidal wave. The Clithran fleet, linked through a central network, faltered as the virus spread. Ships spun out of control, their systems failing. One by one, on Earth, resistance fighters watched in awe as the massive fleet began to collapse. Cheers erupted in bunkers and command centers as the seemingly invincible Clithran armada crumbled. General Ramirez stood in stunned silence, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The countdown timer had frozen, the Omega Protocol thwarted, but her heart sank as she realized what the victory had cost. "Phoenix team, report," she called into the comms. Only static greeted her. In the wreckage of the flagship, Marcus lay amidst the ruins. His breath was ragged, his body battered. Yet, as he gazed out of a shattered viewport, he saw the Clithran fleet falling apart above Earth's atmosphere. A faint smile crossed his lips. "We did it," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The resistance had won, but the price was steep. Phoenix team's sacrifice would be remembered as the turning point in humanity's fight for survival. Earth had endured, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or power, but in its unyielding spirit. For the Clithrans, it was a lesson learned too late. Humanity was not a species to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with.